he became a bloodthirsty jackass. Similarly, like Ganondorf, I mean, you can already kind of draw the comparisons between the two, or between the characters, between Samson and the king, or King Saul. He became a bloodthirsty tyrant as well. And Ganon in the later games is the bearer of the Triforce of Power. He comes into the position of influence and authority already and has dark intentions. And thus, he uses his power for evil purposes. Time and time again, his power allows him to wreak havoc over the land, but he ultimately gets crushed by his own power. Like, it leads to his own downfall. And my take on that too is, yeah, his methods are really bad. He's not a good person at all. But if you know about the events of Skyward Sword, it's really fucked, because he's doomed from the get-go. The way that I see things is, everyone has a potential for really objectively good and objectively bad. But considering the circumstances of Ganondorf's birth and Ganondorf's reincarnation and so on and so forth, he's basically just like set up. It's when you objectively think about it, because you would basically be just doing this to a random individual. With these circumstances, he's set up to just have a miserable life and to cause misery and to be hated. He's a tragic figure. Ganondorf is a character that's continuously born to the Gerudo tribe. It's a race of people that have been shunned and treated like crap by the rest of Hyrule. Now, this rejection and isolation has shaped the character and the community that he's a part of. If you're not familiar with the Gerudo tribe, they only have a male every 100 years. But other than that, it's nothing but females. But this constant rejection and isolation has really shaped the character and the tribe in and of itself. It drives Ganondorf, aside from, the thing that's within him, or at least that's reincarnated with him, it drives him to seek power and to seek acceptance and to carve a place out for himself and his people.
Whether you see him in Ocarina of Time, whether you see him in Twilight Princess, whether you see him in Wind Waker, his motivations are objectively all rooted in tragedy.
Ganondorf is really no slouch when it comes to combat. Like, he will throw hands all day long. He's a pretty skilled warrior with immense strength and magical abilities. Even if you take the Triforce of Power out of the equation, he's really not something to sneeze at. Your man can hold his own. Throughout the various games he's appeared in, he's challenged Link and Zelda over and over and over, and each time he's come really close to achieving his goals. And that's, bad or not, that's to be respected. Because don't get me wrong, I'm very familiar with what's in him that makes him want to do it over and over, or at least insert negative consequences over and over and over. But if it was me, would I hate Zelda and Link? Sure, it would just be inherent in me to do so. But I'm not putting up with this. I'm not. I refuse. Like, I don't know how big Hyrule is as far as, is it a globe? Or is it just like a plot of land somewhere on a planet? Or is it is it flat Earth? Who knows? It's never been made quite clear exactly what Hyrule is, but I'm not putting up with that. Will I hate them? Yeah, but
I'd have to just leave Hyrule because I refuse.
But at the same time, I guess another reason that he's a formidable opponent is you have to be tough, considering the conditions that your people tend to have to be in. Especially if you really get into Wind Waker, because this is the most pronounced version of him, or at least to showcase he's a tragic figure, or even before that, even if you go back to Ocarina of Time
and you go to Kakariko Village and you go to the graveyard in that village, you'll eventually come across a tombstone that says, "Here is gathered Hyrule's bloody history of greed and hatred."
And the Gerudo were part of that. That's a reason that they've been relegated to the desert. And you can imagine, who do you know is enjoying life in the desert? Who's smiling all the time in the desert? More often than not, it sucks ass in the desert. So you know you're not having a good time out there. It's extremely cold, which Ganondorf and Wind Waker went over, and it's extremely hot. Like, it's just two extremes that you have to deal with back and forth. Like, I imagine your economy is not going to be doing too well out in the desert. So they've had to put up with a lot. So when you have to put up with a lot, you really have no choice but to be tough. I mean, considering there's conditions out there, they had to become thieves to survive.
Really, it's what happens in life in general. More often than not, a lot of people find themselves in really bad financial situations, or their environment's really shitty, and they end up having bad outcomes. That's just a way of life, unfortunately. Think about it. You being in the desert versus everybody else being in like lush forestry full of water and prosperity, and you're just in a crusty desert. Does that seem fair to you? You think you're going to be happy about that? Absolutely not.
Think about this. As bad of a rap that the Sheikah, or at least some sections of the Sheikah, and the Gerudo have gotten as far as Hyrule, really, can you blame them? Can you blame Ganondorf for the reason he views Hyrule the way that he does? Like, it's not a good history at all. Whether it be just the Hyrulean Civil War, or whether it be in Twilight Princess with the Arbiter's Grounds. Like, imagine you're about to be executed, and you still have the screams and hollerings of your people in the background, like they're being tortured in the background. This is basically what the Arbiter's Grounds is in Twilight Princess. It's a torture location. You have that playing over and over and over, and you tell me how you feel about that. Some of these people, you are related to, like, biologically you're related to them, and even if you weren't, you grew up with these people. They fed you, they clothed you, they took care of you, they talked to you, they befriended you, they've bonded with you. And you hear their agonies and screams as you're about to be executed. It's gnarly. Please tell me if you can come out the same end and be like, this is fine. A miserable life, and to cause misery, and to be hated objectively endlessly, and for like what? That's the wild part. Like, it's literally for nothing, more or less. It's really just for fucking nothing. But everybody has the conditions, or at least the potential, for being objectively good and objectively bad. But if the conditions are right for it, you can end up really bad. Even the Joker, if you don't know anything about DC Comics, or everybody should more or less know Batman's Joker. So even the Joker has mentioned it, whether it be through the old Dark Knight movie from like 2008, I believe, or which movie was that? The Killing Joke, I think. Like, all it takes is one bad day, and one bad day can send you down. And it happens to like real people. One bad day can send you down a really bad trajectory, and it can alter your life and make you heinous, like we have to experience through society itself. It's pretty wild. Like, there was an experiment, I think, done before. I can't remember the name of it. Was it the Stanford experiment? Maybe. But it basically showcases that anybody can become like a Nazi. Like, anybody can become objectively evil. They just have to have the right conditions for it. And when that research came to be, you come to find out that those people were, they didn't think they were doing anything wrong per se. I mean, some of them probably eventually like, hey, this is clearly wrong, but you just conditioned slowly and thoroughly, and you think to yourself, it's like, well, I'm not the bad guy, they're the bad guys. Like, we're doing the right thing, quote unquote. And that's how a lot of issues come about. And I feel like Ganondorf, more or less, aside from what's in him, it's the same thing. The Hyrule family, it's not talked about much in the Zelda series, and it's fertile territory. Like, my God, you can make a banger of a game if Aonuma and like Nintendo itself tried to dissect the Hyrule family, and you could get some good ass content from it. So, or at least it's vaguely mentioned or vaguely alluded to that the Hyrule family is not this holy family that they're made out to, just like in standard games. They basically were massive jackasses to the Gerudo, and to a lesser degree like the Gorons and the Zorons. they basically they don't really do anything. Like if you look at Ocarina of Time or whatever, and just to set up how everybody answers to the Hyrulean royal family, it's like this hierarchy. It's like for what? Like you don't do like somebody for the love of God tell me, what does the Hyrulean family do for the Zoras? What do they do for the Gorons? What do they do for the Rito? What do they do for the Gerudo? They make sure that the Gerudo are in like a hot ass desert. They definitely do that. But other than other than that travesty, like what do? They just collect taxes. Like that's it. Some bullshit feudalism. That's really what it is. Yeah, it's fertile territory if they actually ever decide to like let's dissect. Let's redefine things again. Let's dissect our long-standing royal family and flesh it out. That would be a sick game, a sick concept for a game. But I don't know if Nintendo has the cojones for it. I guess we'll see at some point. But anyways, if you would like to learn more, definitely feel free to hit that subscribe button. Likes are definitely welcome, as well as comments. Thanks is always appreciated. Feel free to let me know down in the comment section. And if you want more, I've got a nice little lovely video right here. Catch you later.